This is the video review of the storm-powered Megazord from Power Rangers Ninja Storm. I got this guy in the mail today, and normally I do not review figures the day I get them, but this guy's a bit of a special case. Normally I like to spend some time with a figure and iron out my real feelings about it, but this guy I think is probably one of the most fragile Megazords I own. The big reason is this guy, the Dolphin Zord. If you take off this base, fold these down, and if you try and transform this, it is a very tight joint. And I had to open this up to see if I could loosen the joint a little bit, because every time I transformed it, I felt like I was going to break it. Even now, I feel like I'm going to break it, especially with what I know about the quality of the plastic on this guy. When I opened him up, I noticed that there was quite a bit of loose plastic in here. It just fell out. And then, when I started using my knife to shave away at some of the plastic in here that was causing the ratchet mechanism to be too tight, I couldn't just cut the plastic away. I noticed that it sheared away. It broke away. And that's when I realized the plastic on this guy is extraordinarily brittle. Now, if you look closely at it, well, I actually don't think you'll be able to see this, but there is a metallic flake in the plastic. It has a sparkly appearance to it. Now, in the 80s, 90s, and early aughts, there was a type of plastic that was used in Transformers. I don't know if it was ever used in Power Rangers, but this plastic was colloquially known by the Transformers community as GPS plastic, or gold plastic syndrome. And basically what that meant is that it was gold plastic that had a metallic flake content to make it sparkly, to make it look like sparkly gold or something. But the problem was that the metallic flake caused voids inside of the plastic, which would cause it to become extraordinarily brittle over time, to the point where a figure might just, sitting on a shelf, just fracture randomly. And looking at this guy, looking at the quality of his plastic, feeling it, and messing with it a little bit, I gotta say this guy's plastic is exceptionally brittle. And he comes from an era when gold plastic syndrome, when GPS plastic would have been used. Now, I don't know if he actually has GPS, but I do know this plastic is very brittle. And this transformation joint right here is probably going to be prone to breaking. And in fact, I've even seen a couple reviews where people complain about the tail section breaking and then having to fix it themselves. So, this is a big problem for me. Now, to transform this thing, you saw how I took off the space. The space here is just a wheeled platform that lets this thing roll around. It does absolutely nothing else. Flip this out, fold these little tabs in, pull this out so you get an elbow, pull the hand out, open it up, and that's it. Put it off to the side. Now, the next fragile bit is the Lion Zord. Now, I'm not actually concerned about gold plastic syndrome with this guy, because none of his plastic has a metallic flake in it, and it all seems to have a bit more flex to it when I press on it than that guy, than the Dolphin. And in fact, if you take the Hog Sword and bend the ears in, there's quite a bit of flex, so I don't think this guy at least has any gold plastic syndrome plastic on him. I also don't think this guy has any, but anyway, the first thing that feels like it's fragile, even though I'm pretty sure it's not, is the head here. Because to transform this thing, you need to rip it off. And there's quite a bit of flex here between the two halves of the main sandwich here. Now, because of this rivet here, I don't think it's actually a problem, but it feels like it's a problem. Anyway, this is going to be another arm. Fold out the hand, set off to the side. And then, to transform this thing, bring this up, fold these back, take the feet, bring them down, and I actually like this bit of transformation. It's kind of neat how it takes the feet and puts them in, and you'll spread the legs, and bring them down. And this is basically what you're going to do to transform the main body of the lion. Now, the fragile part of this figure is in the legs. Now, you see the telescoping mechanism, how it's exposed on the inside here? That means that if you don't telescope it out properly, you get a bit of wiggle here. And if you look, there's a little gray tab right there, an exceptionally small gray tab, and normally that gray tab fits under this blue section right here. And that little gray tab is all that keeps this leg right here straight, whereas this leg kind of flops around a bit. That is an extraordinarily small tab that's being asked to do a fairly big job, because you can get quite a bit of leverage on that tab. So I'm actually surprised that the tabs on this aren't broken. Now, I haven't read anything about these tabs breaking, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a common problem if you buy this secondhand. Now, I believe the Japanese version has die-cast legs, or at least chrome-coated legs. I have never handled the Japanese version Senpuujin, but by looking at pictures, it looks like the legs are die-cast. And if that's true, then on the Japanese version, that little tab is probably die-cast, so it's probably not a problem. So, potentially, the Japanese version does not have as many or the same structural problems that this figure has. I'm willing to bet the Japanese version probably has better legs that won't have that little tab that will break off, or the tab won't break off because it's a different material. I have no idea if this thing would be fragile the same way on the Japanese version, so I don't know if the Japanese version is really a sturdy toy, but I'm betting it's probably a little bit more sturdy than the US version. And now we can move on to the Hog Sword, which I actually don't have a problem with. It actually has some die-cast on him. The only die-cast in the entire set, it's this little part right here on his back. His, just this little plate right here. And for the most part, I like this thing. I like the way it looks. I wish it had some sort of feet or a flat base so that it could sit like this, because normally it just derps to the side. But overall, it's pretty nice. And I love the transformation. You bring the head down, bring the tail up, fold the wings in, and then you'll fold the head out. Or the face out. And I really like this head. It's kind of unique. I like how the head transforms, and I know it's interesting. Now anyway, to combine this guy, you take the lion mane, stick it onto the side here. Take the dolphin Zord, stick it onto the side here. Raise it up. And then these two little jet boosters here will combine into ports here and here. I'm not sure actually which set of ports you're supposed to use. I don't think it's these ones because it makes the head look too far forward, so I use the back ones. If I'm wrong, oh well. Anyway, you just stick the head in there, and this is the storm-powered Megazord all put together. And I actually don't know what I think about this thing. I know it looks interesting, and I do like the chrome on the chest here, but I don't know if I think it looks good. Like I said, I haven't spent a lot of time with this thing because I think it's fragile, and I probably won't spend a lot of time with him. I'll probably just put it on a shelf so I can at least enjoy it from a distance for a long time, because this thing isn't going to get any play because I don't want to break it. But it's an interesting look at the very least. I will give it that, and I'll give it points for trying something new. On the shelf, I can see myself, if I put this on the shelf, I can see myself just looking at it on occasion thinking, yeah, that's interesting. Get the creative juices going in my head, because it's not something you would expect. So I don't know if I actually like how it looks, but I can appreciate that it's something different. Now for articulation, you get arms that go around 360, and that's about it. The hands can move in and out like this on both arms. Well, on this arm it goes in like that, on this arm it goes in like that, and then it has articulated fingers. Now this arm is a bit special because you do get a bit of an elbow, but it's very limited, so it's not really useful. And if the arm is straight, you can rotate it around here like this, which is actually kind of useful for this guy's sword. Now this guy is from the Hurricaneger and Power Rangers Ninja Storm, so he has the Karakuri or Powerball gimmick. Now there is a little button on the back here, right here, and if you press this, it'll start to press against these. It doesn't do the job completely, but you'll get this little ball out, and then you'll open the ball, and then you'll get a little weird thing inside. Pull the handle back, and extend it out like this, and you get a sword. And I kind of like the way this thing looks. It's a bit silly, but it's not terrible, it's just interesting. But what I don't like is it's floppy. Now on the shelf, just holding it's not going to be a problem. And really, it's not a problem, it's just kind of an annoyance, because they could have done something to make this better. Now let me close this up. Let me put in his hand, and the hands on this guy are actually pretty decent. Normally, articulated hands don't hold things very well, but this guy can hold things pretty well. It's pretty solid in his hand. And one thing I like about this is, for a stored sword, it is a very nice size, because a lot of times when a figure stores a sword internally, the sword ends up looking kind of dinky. It's not dinky, it's actually pretty decent. And then here you get the articulation where you can do some stuff with the sword here, and that's okay. So anyway, this has been the Storm-Powered Megazord. I don't really recommend the American version because it has some structural problems. And especially I don't recommend it used, because you're not necessarily going to be able to tell from a picture how it's broken if it is broken. The Japanese version might not have all of the same problems, but it might still have some of them. I can't guarantee that these are actually die-cast in the Japanese version. I can't guarantee that's not GPS in the Japanese version. So, if you like what you see here, buy cautiously. That's the best advice I can give. Anyway, I review Power Ranger toys, Transformers, Macross figures, lots of stuff like that. If any of that sounds interesting, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.